fucking Dragonborn.
Just a robot.
Whoa, I really did not expect my Gumball video to do this well. Just for that, I'm going to do another review on a Gumball episode. Because I reviewed the best last time, I'm going to review the worst this time. The episode begins with the Watersons returning home, and every single one of them is in a bad mood.
Oh, hi, honey.
Help!
I'm pretty sure those characters are dead now.
Dinner is served!
Thanks, Mr. Dad. Being slapped in the face with wet spaghetti was the nicest thing that happened to us all day.
Yeah, being a guy these days is the worst.
What is that?
Your words, and you're gonna eat them right now.
I gotta use that sometime. So this is the premise of the episode. The downside of the gender roles of men and women. Unfortunately, they only do it from one perspective. You'll see what I mean throughout this review.
Why?
Because being a woman is the worst. It's like playing one of your video games without the stick of happiness.
Do you mean the joystick?
I can't believe they let that get past the censors. For those of you who don't get the joke, the joystick is a metaphor for penis.
You guys can complain all you want, but you know who really has it the worst? Kids. No matter how right you are, everyone is just so condescending.
Oh, sweetie, condescending isn't a word. Anyway, you should try being a grown-up. Responsibility, fatherhood, full-time employment. Avoiding those things is so hard for an adult.
Now, if Gumball was an adult cartoon, they would have probably only focused on the gender roles. But because Gumball is a kid's cartoon, they're also focusing on the difference between being a kid and being an adult. Which I think is great, because it gives the writers more room to make jokes. That's why shows like Rick and Morty have the family at home doing their own thing while Rick and Morty are on an adventure. It gives the writers two completely different situations to work with.
What do I smell? Is it cinnamon? No, citrus. No, wait, no. Lilac?
Nope. It's called Roses of the Meadow. We thought we'd try Mom's shower gel for a change.
That's it. It's weakness I smell.
And this is my major problem with this episode. The problems that men have to deal with in this episode is what a feminist thinks men's problems are. Basically, it's an issue that no one really should be that concerned with. Oh no, we can never use this shampoo again or we'll be made fun of. Now don't get me wrong, it's an issue that men do have to deal with, but men do have much, much bigger problems than just that.
Privilege is having people assume you're an innocent victim in cases of domestic violence, even though half of all domestic violence is reciprocated, and women account for 70% of non-reciprocated domestic violence perpetrators. Privilege is having access to abuse shelters even when you yourself are an abuser and your victim is denied access because of his gender. Privilege is not having people assume you did something to deserve it if you are a victim of domestic violence. Privilege is not being laughed at if you are a victim of domestic violence. Privilege is not being laughed at if you are a victim of rape. Privilege is being 1/3 as likely to be a victim of homicide. Privilege is being 1/4 as likely to end up homeless.
They don't smell like the chemicals we've been taught to associate with manliness!
Quick, everyone! Question their masculinity in a sarcastic way!
Oh my god, who talks like this? I believe this is what feminists refer to as masculinity so fragile. But no one talks like this. Feminists act like men say masculinity this or masculinity that, when in reality, almost no one talks like this.
I feel like these people have never actually talked to a guy in person. Like, their vision of a group of men hanging out is, hello, fellow men, isn't it awesome to harass women? Tits, 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 Donald Trump. No means yes. Who wants to go rape some bitches?
You know where to go well with your perfume? Admitting you're insecure instead of punching someone in the face!
Yeah, what next? Going to see a doctor instead of suffering in silence until it's too late? And it went like that the whole day. A whole day where we had to hold in our tears too because boys don't cry.
The patriarchy shames men about crying and showing their emotions, but we feminists are helping to stop that sexism.
So if you haven't guessed yet, they're going to bring up social expectations a lot. They act like it's society that makes men and women act differently, and while that is a factor, it mostly has to do with sexual dimorphism. Why do we see the exact same gender roles across a variety of different cultures? Why do animals have gender roles? Well, it's because of sexual dimorphism. While it is true that men do cry less than women, it has more to do with the fact that women have ovaries than it has to do with society. And the whole line about punching people in the face instead of admitting you're insecure, that has to do with the fact that men have testosterone. Boys don't act rowdy because society tells them to. They do it because they want to. If you want more info about this, read the book The War on Boys. It's a great read and I highly recommend you go check it out.
I recently read about a third grader in Southern California named Justin who loved science fiction, pirates, and battles. Well, an alarmed teacher summoned his parents to school to discuss the picture the 8-year-old had drawn of a sword fight, which included several decapitated heads. The teacher expressed grave concern about Justin's values. The boy's father was astonished, not by his son's drawing, which to him was typical boy stuff, but by the teacher's overwrought and female-centered reaction. Hardly a week goes by without a news story about a young boy running afoul of the school's zero-tolerance policy. Josh Welsh, age 7, was recently sent home from his Maryland school for nibbling off the corners of a strawberry Pop-Tart into the shape of a gun. Josh, like many other boys punished for violating zero-tolerance policies, was guilty of nothing more than being a typical 7-year-old boy.
Mr. Yoshida, how come we've never had a female employee of the month?
We can't have a picture of a woman. It would distract all the men.
Who talks like this? Don't get me wrong, men did talk like this decades ago, but now, not really. I'm sure this may happen here or there, but it's nowhere near a normal thing. Honestly, if you catch that on recording, you could easily make a case to sue him. Hell, you probably don't even have to record it. You could probably just accuse him of saying something like that and it would work.
Nicole, do you have that report I asked for?
Oh, I put it on the boss's desk.
Oh, that reminds me. Jim, I read your report. Great work. Let's see if we can't get you an office of your own.
Oh, Gumball, I can't stay mad at you. Even when I'm angry, you make me laugh.
Oh, that reminds me. You should smile more, sweetheart.
Now, while I do think women get told to smile more often than men, I don't really see it as a bad thing. I have been told to smile myself, but that's because I work the front desk. At the very worst, it's mildly annoying.
So not only am I getting paid 22% less for my work than the men...
Okay, the whole women make 78 cents for every dollar a man makes thing, it comes from the Department of Labor where they compared the average earnings of men and women. However, they did not calculate for different jobs, hours worked overtime, and many other things.
Although additional research in this area is clearly needed, this study leads to the unambiguous conclusion that the difference between the compensation of men and women are the result of a multitude of factors and that the raw wage gap should not be used as the basis to justify corrective action. Indeed, there may be nothing to correct. The differences in raw wages may be almost entirely the result of individual choices being made by both male and female workers.
It's not a wage gap, it's an earnings gap. The way they talk about this stuff, they make it sound like it's written into law that women can only earn 77 cents for every dollar a man makes. When in reality, it's actually illegal to pay a woman less than a man just because she's a woman.
Yet it is so deeply misleading as to border on outright falsehood. 23-cent gender pay gap is simply the difference between the average earnings of all men and women working full-time. It does not take account for differences in occupations, positions, education, job tenure, or hours worked per week. Now, wage gap activists and groups like the American Association of University Women or the National Women's Law Center, they say, no, even when you control for these factors, women still earn less. Well, it always turns out that they have omitted one or two crucial data points. Take the case of doctors. On the surface, it looks like female physicians are clearly victims of wage discrimination. They appear to earn less for the same work. But dig a little deeper beneath the surface, and you find that women are far more likely than men to enter lower paying specialties like pediatrics or family medicine than higher paying cardiology or anesthesiology. They are also more likely to work part-time. And even women who work full-time put in about 7% fewer hours than men.
I still think being a kid is worse.
Sure, sweetie. How do you cope with all those short days and long holidays? It must be so tough.
Well, at least my generation didn't ruin the economy and the planet.
My nigga, you just got roasted, yo!
How about we swap roles? Mom, you'll be a guy, we'll be women, and you'll be a grown-up, and Dad, you'll be a little kid.
Believe it or not, there was this woman who disguised herself as a man and wrote a book about it. It's called Self-Made Man. I highly recommend you go check it out. As for an adult becoming a child, well, I can only think of one instance where that happened, and let's just say it was rather creepy.
My back! What is wrong with it?
Nothing. After turning 40, random parts of your body start to hurt horribly for no reason, and there's no cure.
I don't care how much the writers of Gumball are getting paid. They deserve so much more.
What are you doing? We're just giving in to the extreme pressure to conform to completely unattainable standards of beauty.
When feminists talk about unrealistic beauty standards or unrealistic body proportions, they usually just mean really difficult to achieve. No one is saying that every single woman has to look like a model. Models aren't average, they're the most beautiful women in the world.
First of all, when you look at the women in these video games, there actually are women who have those body shapes, as you can see here, and here, and here, and here. Need I go on?
Right, middle-aged metabolism. Anything that enters my body now makes me fat. What? Hair as well?
My God, this show.
Oh, allow me, ladies.
No, allow me.
No, allow me.
I said it.
Isn't Gumball like 12 or 13? Someone should really call Chris Hansen.
Tonight, the strangest parade of suspects you've ever seen.
Actually, could you push that button for us?
On To Catch a Predator.
Also, remember the old days when holding a door open for a woman was chivalrous or polite? Because I sure don't.
Study! Exam! Study! Another exam! Study some more! Exam! Break time! Break time's over! Study! Exam!
Ugh, grown-up life is so boring. Wait, I'll just use my imagination to make it more interesting. Come on, grown-up imagination, give me everything you've got. Forget it. I'll just file this along with all the other hopes and dreams adults have.
You know, this is why I don't watch this show, because every time I see an episode, I burn out about a half a dozen laugh chips.
Okay, we're going straight to the top, where all the executives hang out.
They're gonna do a glass ceiling joke, aren't they?
What's happening?
It's the glass ceiling Mom was talking about. What's that? The invisible barrier that stops anyone who's not an old rich dude from getting the best job.
Called it. Also, old rich dude? Don't you mean old cisgendered white dude?
I didn't even shave today. I washed 3 parts of my body with a damp face cloth and I'm good to go. Wow, I never realized how little time guys spend looking after themselves.
Okay, buddy, you can stop by shifting that stuff over there. Good to have you with us.
Oh my goodness, my legs, my legs! Please, I need help!
You okay, big guy?
Yeah, can't complain. Oh, wait, why did I say that? I need to get to the hospital. Which room? Oh yeah, can't ask for directions either.
Okay, well, the whole I can't ask for directions or I can't ask for help stuff is pretty stupid. They do actually bring up a good point here. On average, men do tend to take very dangerous jobs.
Men are vastly overrepresented, for example, on oil rigs.
I'm so glad I'll never be a man.
And I'm so glad we'll never be women.
Somewhere out in the world right now, a trans person is getting really pissed off.
So I guess we're all agreed. Everyone has it equally bad.
Well, no. Actually, there are some real imbalances that...
Exactly. Turns out everyone has it the worst.
And I think that's a very good message. Men and women are disadvantaged in certain areas because of society. And there really is a discussion to be had. Now, while I didn't like this episode nearly as much as I liked the other one, it wasn't terrible. Trust me, there is way worse feminist propaganda out there. I didn't agree with a lot of the things they said, but I don't need to agree with something 100% to like it. My eyes have seen the glory of the cleansing of YouTube, debunking SJWs and feminazis too. We criticize reactionists in hopes they get the boot. Just the robot marches on.
Oh no, that's the problem. Men just don't listen. Women always get cut off in the middle of their